Hey y'all. So I wanted to check in. I had a really nice time in Cancun. I appreciate y'all that wish me well. Um, so I had CJ ask me a little bit about working in mental health. What does it mean to be an addiction specialist? Um, it's a very complicated issue. And especially CJ, who was asking, mentioned that he's in Australia. I don't know comparatively how things are over there. I know for me personally, part of the reason that I'm not working in that field right now has to do with I could afford to live as a counselor in Texas. I'd probably go ahead and go for my master's and live and continue counseling like I was before. But I had already determined to live in LA, that I was going to pursue acting, even though that's a really long road. And I don't know anybody who does addiction counseling, um, who doesn't have more than one job, and that's part of what comes with it. I worked in it for a very long time. Most of that time, I was actually interning, doing things like that, so I was working for free, and I was facilitating groups. I was doing one-on-one counseling, case management, things of that nature, working with people who are at their lowest. Usually people come in because they're tired of being homeless, or they're about to be homeless, or you get a lot of people who are trying not to go to jail, and part of the way that you don't go to jail is you go to treatment. Actually, there's um, you can sort of chart how well the likelihood of someone completing treatment based on the reason that they go. So people who go for to stay out of jail are the least likely to complete treatment versus somebody who felt a deep need for change on their own. The same with family. If you're doing it for somebody else, it doesn't work well. However, the highest rate of completion was people who went to rehab to keep their job. Those people, the goals mean a lot. Something like keeping your pride can help you stay afloat sometimes. Um, and also, I feel like in the addiction community, it's really a rough community in a lot of ways, and it's a very rewarding career. If you want to help people, it's a wonderful place to be. I would not give up my time there for anything. Um, but one of the difficulties for me personally is that I am not in recovery, so there's this bias towards normies, and one of the issues being, oh, maybe you can't help because you don't understand. Personally, I'm a very empathetic person. I know that I haven't been through exactly what someone else has been through, but I've watched it in other people, and I just I care what people in front of me are thinking and feeling. So that actually wasn't such a problem with the clients. It would come up here and there, and I could usually combat it in a personal setting, and even in group settings. I had maybe one person voice a concern over that, and then other people would jump in and be like, hey, she's here for free, like, not making crazy money or whatever. Like, I wasn't just doing it for a check. Um, but where that really became a block, where it really got in my way, was when I had coworkers who felt that way. And I was very fortunate most of the places that I was at, where I had lovely people who I worked with, who worked really hard, most of whom were in recovery. Um, but there is such a thing as being a dry drunk, so to speak, being sober but not recovered. So sometimes people stop doing drugs or alcohol, but they don't adjust their behaviors. They don't stop acting like when they were deep in their addictions. So unfortunately, uh, dealing with a lot of dealing with some very specific issues like that are part of the reason why I got out of the field in California. And also, again, I'm in LA to act. So there were some specific decisions that led me to quit working in that field. But certainly, mental health is not something you go into for the money. Hey, psychiatrists make a ton of money. Don't get me wrong. They also have a really high suicide rate. You have to really have an idea of what you're getting into. Part of the problem, I feel like I'm going on for a long time, but I'm wrapping it up. Part of the problem is a lot of people I've seen get into psychology, get into it because they go, oh, I want to know how people think, and they say things that make you think, oh, you think you're going to know how to read people's minds, and that's absurd. But I think if you think you can approach it clinically, if you think that things are going to be black and white, that a diagnosis is checking things off from a page, then you think it's too simple, and you need to examine it further before you really pursue that. Because most people end up in some adjacent field. Most people who study psychology end up in social work. That's just what it is. There are ways to help people, and I think putting in the research before you make a decision like that, which includes doing things like internships, that I think that can help you be happy in the long run a lot more than just, I don't know, assuming that you're smart enough in one way or another. It's good to be smart. It helps to be smart. Understanding the mechanics of it is fantastic, but you have to have the heart for it too, and you have to emotionally be able to take it. All right. Thanks, guys.